Hi, I wanted to take you on a little flower tour of what's happening here in the beautiful mountains of North Carolina in May. We're working with some hydrangea foliage, and this will be really beautiful later this summer with lots of blossoms and blooms, and the fall turns the beautiful. It has little speckles of burgundy in it. We have Weigelia here, one of my favorite flowers to work with because it can act both as a green and as a little punch of color. We have lupin here. This is something that is really well known here in the mountains. We have a lot of this in the area. It's what you'll find growing at sometimes at grocery stores and of course in backyards and things like that. Have some ladies mantle here today as well. I have a few ranunculus that I had left from that I just decided I didn't like with what I was doing before, like for an event last week. So I have a few of those that I might incorporate. Some ranunculus. I have some beautiful tree peonies from the garden out front. And then we have some poppies, and we actually still have tulips up in the mountains since our season starts a little bit later than other people's. And then I have some pretty fun little apples from my apple tree out here in the backyard. So those are the ingredients that we're going to be working with today, and I'm just going to show you a little technique for doing a simple hand-tied bouquet, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about efficiency as we go through it. So whenever you're you've got your studio set up and you're working on an event or a wedding, a lot of times with bouquets, if you just kind of jump into making it without having a plan in place before you go ahead with it, it can get really cumbersome because you're trying to strip a leaf here and trying to, hold your bundle of flowers here. So something that I really love to do is have someone help me strip all of the leaves down to, I'll just kind of give them a little tutorial on where I'd like the leaves to be stripped to. And then I, especially if I'm doing several bouquets, rather than having it all laid out on a table like this, which is just so that you can see what we're working with today, I would just have it in little vases. So each bouquet, the ingredients for each bouquet would be in a vase, and they would just go through, and whatever my instructions were, 3 stems of the hydrangea and 3 stems of the Weigelia and 5 stems of lupin, and it just kind of will be all arranged there. And so then that makes actually putting the bouquet together really, really easy. And you can have another bucket on the side of just some extra things, because sometimes these aren't the right pieces to all work together. So you can kind of trade out some pieces from like maybe an extras bucket or something like that as you arrange. But just a little thought to get you set up and going. But how I like to hold my bouquets is just with a really open, loose grip here, like a C. And I'm going to layer these hydrangea pieces in a little bit of just a triangular tripod shape. So you just have 2 on one side, 1 on the other side. So this is normally my long piece, and then I have a medium piece and kind of a shorter piece. That's how I start them. And then I was a little gun shy to cut my Weigelia just because I wanted to kind of see how the pieces could form in my hand real quick. So that's one thing that I did not prep in advance. But I think I'm just gonna kind of work with this here, and we might adjust it as we go along, but I'm gonna go for that one there. And then I'm going to clip this one. This is really one long piece, and I'm going to clip it into 2 pieces. So there is a little bit of a shorter piece, and just strip a few off of this to do a long piece. Now, I just stripped these off of here. This would make a really sweet boutonniere or corsage ingredient. So I have you could put a little vase there to collect those pieces as you move along throughout your arrangement. So I've got this one coming out to the side, this one here, and this one I'm going to put in the back and up high so that I keep everything balanced. So I need to have room in here as well to place some flowers. Next, I'm going to move from this the Weigelia has a really bright, punchy pink that goes and fades to more of a light pink, and I'm going to eventually get into incorporating a little bit of yellow in here. So I'm going to start with my darkest lupin that just has a hint of yellow in it, just hints at yellow, tiny little bit. I'm gonna find a spot to layer that in. We'll go just about there. And next I'm going to put in a piece of lupin that is even just a shade brighter than the one that I just put in. And it also has a hint of yellow in it, but a little bit more than the one before. So we're just slowly and gently introducing this next color to the arrangement. Next we're going to go for yellow. I'm going to just look and see if any of them have a slight pink hue to them. And that's how I'd be kind of bridging this gap. This one has just a tiny little touch. So you can see how we've moved from kind of dark to light, and now we're going to really fill out this yellow here on the other side. And then when I'm trying to decide where I want to put something, I'm examining, which way is that kind of naturally pointing and making the line of the arrangement go. We've got this going here. I think it might be kind of nice to try this to kind of be an upswing, since we've been going down on the other side. It might be kind of nice to have this pop up. And I'm about to add some lady's mantle that will help support this a little bit better than it is right now. So this is a little bit of a heavier ingredient. Probably should have put the lady's mantle in first to support these since they're heavier, but okay. So we'll just kind of carry that color back through. I have 2 pieces of lupin left, but I'm going to wait and I might come back to those after I put a few more things into the arrangement. So next, the purpose of this lady's mantle, you can see how there's different spikes, and has a pretty, this one in particular has pretty sturdy stems. So what I like to do with this is to place it pretty low in the arrangement. It adds a little bit of texture, but it's also adding some stability, so that as I continue to layer flowers in, they have something to catch on to and to be stabilized with. So I'm working with 5 stems of this. If you're working with a lower budget, you could maybe just do 3 stems. It just kind of depends what the big picture of what you're looking like is. Have some in the front and then working it back in this way. Again, I'm going to save this one little piece that I have just in case of coming back I decide I want to add some more in. Let's see, these ranunculus, I think these are going to act as a little bit of an accent flower. So again, I'm looking through and I'm seeing, out of all of the ranunculus that I have, which one would be the best fit for the palette in that particular spot. Because you can see some of these are real dark and then some are lighter. So what I would like to do is add a little grouping of 3 of them here. Kind of paying attention to the size a little bit as well. Putting the things that are the smallest at the top. This one has a little bit more of a purple as opposed to a pink, and this one has a little bit more pink, so I'm going to swap that out. And you want to have some void back there behind your flowers so that they can really pop out and shine. So you don't want to put it here, how that's on the same level. I'm going to put that up just a step above that. Next I'm going to go and I'm going to pop one back in here. And this is not acting so much as a beautiful element of the bouquet as much of a stability element. I can feel that there's a little bit of movement back in there, so I'm just kind of putting that there to hold some things in place. We'll turn around and we'll work on the back side of it a little bit. You can see this is a great place for this ranunculus that was darker and just a little bit too much for this area of the arrangement. Back here, that's a great little spot for that. Fits right in there with that Weigelia. And then this one's slightly darker. Brings your eye up and adds a little bit of depth. And this one, just kind of a space filler as opposed to movement. So you just kind of want to think about, like, what's the purpose of the flower that you're putting in there, and you use the really beautiful flowers, the stars of the shows, to higher in the arrangement, and then some of these other ones that aren't as beautiful you use lower in the arrangement. And back here I feel like I'm lacking some ingredients in this area, so it's great to save. Like I said, we saved this one piece of lady's mantle, and that fills that in and takes care of that problem. I also feel like this one piece of hydrangea greenery is kind of in the way of where I might like to put a focal flower in the future, so I'm just going to tug that out and add that back in here to bridge the gap between the lady's mantle and the end of this. So I have these other ranunculus that are a little bit darker, but I think I'm going to pause on putting those in for now, and I want to experiment and see what these focal flowers could look like in here and how I want those to be presented. Now that's going to happen too, where, you know, something's going to slide out of place. You can just gently coax it back in. And something I'm going to do real quick is just to trim all of these, because those lupin stems are thick and they're a little bit heavy. So whenever they're rolling around down there, that can kind of get them out of place a little bit as well. So if you just keep this trimmed periodically, that'll help with that problem, and it'll also keep your hand in good shape so that it doesn't tire out too quick. I think it's very predictable to sink things right in this area, and you can, and I think that that's pretty and something that I like to do a lot. But have you ever thought about, you know, putting some beautiful focal flowers off to the side and framing the silhouette? It's kind of another way to think about it and look at it. So we've got this movement carrying back here, the largest peony, a medium-sized peony, a small peony. Oh my goodness, look at this. Oh, wow. We'll just let him hang out. Now on the back side here, we can still catch the color of these two. We have this little stair step with a ranunculus that's really beautiful, and I think will frame this peony really well. Just gonna pop that right down in there. Now I'm gonna just adjust this. I had it kind of towards the outside, but I'm gonna pop this right through the back side of the arrangement, and to make that, just so that the orientation of the face is a little bit different, to make that a little bit easier, you can trim the ends of your stems to be a little like a nail, so you can just sort of pierce through there. So much easier than struggling and forcing it. Okay, so that again is carrying that line back that way. I have a few ingredients left. Poppies, I call it a little finishing flower, and you can use them in different capacities, of course, but I like to use them as a little finish, something to float higher in the arrangement, just to kind of finish it off. And then I go back and we're going to look at this base area of the arrangement as well. And again, I'm just kind of noticing the colors. Some have like slightly peachier tones to them. Some more pink. So I'm just kind of experimenting and seeing, you know, where would that one best be showcased. I think we have the dark pink side over here, that loop and how you're carrying that. So it might be pretty to put over here in this area. And you can kind of wrap them in among some other flowers to get it facing how you'd like it to face. And next I'm going to move, I might come back and pop those in at the very end, but I'm going to move towards thinking about what's going on down here. So we have this exposed branch, so I'm going to adjust the hydrangea foliage a little bit, and I'm going to add some tulips down in that area, just so that we don't have anything that isn't really beautiful being showcased at some point while it's being carried. Just gonna kind of waterfall, I guess you could call it. I don't know, I think I just made that up maybe. Kind of put those in there, and then I'm gonna pop it off with one up here higher. Let's look at it from this side. Okay, so that carried the tulips further back into the arrangement rather than having it be flat. And the last thing I wanted to do was finish it off with some of these cute little apples. Down here around the base. I don't feel like I need that one. And I like to give it a little shake. These things can get heavy in your hands. Okay, I have some of these little peony leaves too left over, and these are great. Flat leaves are great for framing areas down here at the base. So I'm going to pop that in, just down in there low. I think I'm kind of finished with that. What I might do at this point, if this was a bride's bouquet, is just set this aside, and I would go work on something else for a little while. Maybe I do like a boutonniere or two, and then I would come back and look at it again, because sometimes if you're working and you're solving all of these problems, I mean, when you're putting an arrangement together, you're solving like a lot of little problems, like a little puzzle piece. And sometimes stepping away from it just for a few minutes and coming back, get yourself some water, a little granola bar or something, and then come back to it. You'll see things that you didn't necessarily see whenever you were doing it first. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take a little break, and then I'll pop back in and see if I want to switch anything up. So I've stepped away from the arrangement and I've come back, and I quickly identified a few things that I wanted to switch up. So this is the back side of the arrangement, and I was noticing that I lack some color here, and I have an opportunity to carry this yellow a little bit further. And I have these 2 stems of lupin left that we didn't use yet, and see how, you know, that went from being, you know, maybe not a whole lot to then this kind of just being something that can pop in there and really finish that back section off so it doesn't feel so empty. So that was one of my quick little adjustments. It carries this line with the lupin the whole way through as opposed to just abbreviating that. And then the other thing I noticed is that I really wanted a finishing piece back here as well. So I have this poppy that we didn't use that I'm going to incorporate back here. And I'm going to use that hydrangea leaf to frame that little guy. And then the last thing that I noticed that I wanted to do is there's a spot right in here that I feel like could lend itself to if the bouquet is being photographed from the side here. This little piece, and I accidentally tugged off one of its petals earlier today, and I thought, oh, I probably won't use that. But since we're tucking this down deep in here pretty low, we can actually disguise that petal is missing altogether. So a flower that may have gone to waste otherwise can still add some beauty to the arrangement. Even if it's just the yellow center and all the petals come off, it's just a little pop of color happening down in there that I think would be valuable. Great. So I'm going to call that finished. The only thing we didn't use were some of these ranunculus, which with these pieces that we pulled off of the Weigelia would make a really sweet coordinating boutonniere to go with this. So sometimes with boutonnieres I'll, maybe order specifically one thing, but I like to use pieces from everything else that I'm doing. It helps it to all coordinate a little bit better. I'm just taking the tape around the stems, going that way in one direction, and then I'm gonna go backwards with the tape for a second so that whenever I put my ribbon in here, I've got something to grab onto. And this little poppy just needs to be supported, so I'm gonna wrap him behind the apple since he is falling down. Okay, ribbon. This is just a simple satin ribbon from May Arts. It's a great all-purpose ribbon. And before I get that on there, let's trim this off a little bit lower. Feels like you're really trimming small, but the point of the flowers is flowers, so we don't need a lot of stems going everywhere. So I've just folded that back, and I'm wrapping this around just real gently. I'm going to go ahead and just cut this free. You just want to arrange it so that it's smooth. If your stems are kind of in the way or making it impossible for it to be smooth, just kind of resituate things a little bit and get it so that you can have a smooth stem wrap. So right now I'm on the back side of the bouquet, and I'm going to move over to the front because I'm going to finish this off in the front. So I'm going to put my thumb right here in the middle. And I have this one little tail that's popping out. This is such an easy, fast way to do a nice tailored edge. quickly. This gets hidden back in here. And then right there where your thumb is, you're just gonna pop a pin in there, and that grabs both the wrapping that you've done, and it also grabs that second piece. I might tug one more pin back in there just to make sure that's really secure. And then that just kind of drapes down like that, and you didn't have to do anything extra, just it's real fast and easy. And now that I have this in my hand, I see where the ribbon's falling. I'm gonna cut these stems even shorter to their finished length. And if I'm holding this in my hand, I just want a little bit popping down. Don't need much at all. You don't want to cut it so short that it's, you know, not balanced and that it's going to topple over on you whenever you pop it in the vase and travel with it, but it's okay to keep it pretty short. And you may, if you're traveling, which I'm obviously not today, but you may leave it a little bit longer and then do this final cut once you get to the event venue so that there's a fresh cut on the flowers. But I wanted you to see the end product as well. I'm just going to gently lay this little guy down and just give these ribbons a final snip. These are Joyce Chen clippers, and they're really great multi-purpose. They can go through wire, they can go through ribbon, they can go through the plants, branches, I mean all kinds of stuff. Fabulous, fabulous scissors. If they get gunky, they're not good for ribbon, but all right, so that's it. That's our pink and yellow bouquet or tour of the mountains in May. Have a good one.